scary sunspot that could cause havoc on Earth. A massive sunspot on the sun's surface, around 4 times the size of Earth, may cause havoc on Earth. It was eerily quiet for a while, and that's got some astronomers worried that a major solar flare could be on the way. Could it be the calm before the storm? For 5 days, this monstrous sunspot simmered on the sun's surface. Over that period, its activity has skyrocketed, leading solar scientists to predict a high potential for solar storms. And that's exactly what took place in the late hours of September 16th, firing our planet with a solar flare that has a temperature of a blazing 10 million degrees Celsius. But first, what are sunspots? Sunspots are areas of the sun with powerful magnetic fields, strong enough to block some of the sun's internal heat from reaching the surface. They may appear cooler and darker than the rest of the solar surface. However, they could still be very hot, having a temperature of around 3,600 degrees Celsius. And if you were to remove it from the sun and place it in the night sky, it would look as bright as a full moon. But once a sunspot's magnetic fields undergo a sudden shift or realignment, massive amounts of energy can be released. This energy is an outburst of radiation from the sun, or what we call the solar flare. But they aren't alone sometimes. In some cases, they eject large bubbles of solar radiation and particles with them, known as coronal mass ejections, or CME. Solar flares are widely regarded as our solar system's most powerful explosive events, and the threat they appear to pose in our minds shows no sign of stopping. These solar bursts can interfere with our modern technologies like radio communications, navigation systems, and power grids. Due to their interaction with Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field, it can even bring satellites down. However, not all flares have the same amount of power. Depending on their intensity, flares are labeled as A-class, B-class, C-class, M-class, or X-class, with X-class being the strongest and A-class being the weakest. The M-class flares were blasted by AR-3098, the second most energetic category of flares. But note that the burst was almost like an X-class, so intense that it disrupted shortwave radio communications in the sun-facing regions of the world, namely Africa and the Middle East. It also unleashed another solar flare on the same day, which led to another outage in South America. And it seemed like it did not wish to leave without putting on a grand finale. It even blasted a coronal mass ejection, CME, toward Europe's solar orbiter before its flyby of Venus in early September. No need to worry though, the spacecraft is perfectly okay. As of September 17th, AR-3098 has been swept out of view by the sun's rotation. It is no longer visible on the solar disk, but we will see it again, and who knows how big or small it will be then. For now, all eyes are on AR-3102, another sunspot region previously known as AR-3088. Weeks ago, it blasted an outburst of solar energy particles, or SEPs, from the sun, but it sure is shy, happening as it did when the sunspot was on the far side of the sun, away from the Earth. Yet, as it traveled to the side of the visible part of the sun, we now face a more powerful version of it. At the moment, its magnetic complexity makes it the largest and most active region on the sun and is constantly growing. The sun's surface is active in more ways than just these sunspots. At the very least, more sunspots are on the other side, and their combined effect literally alters the sun's vibrations, according to scientists. For what reason, then, have sunspots recently become so common? This is because the sun is currently going through solar cycle 25, which began on December 25, 2019. The sun's activity is expected to increase during this period, leading up to its peak during the solar cycle. It's important to note that every 11 years, the sun goes through the same type of cycle. It goes through periods of activity, storminess, and eventually becoming relatively calm, marking the beginning of new solar cycles. For the next few years, we expect our star to remain in a state of hyperactivity, with solar events increasing as we approach its solar maximum in 2025. However, beauty can be found in such extreme events. Though sunspots cause the burst of solar flares and coronal mass ejections, these events are what allow us to witness the beautiful nighttime light shows known as the auroras. As much havoc as sunspots can unleash on Earth, we can't ignore the beauty that they can do, either. In other news, scientists have begun to discuss if it is possible for Earth to leave our solar system. Click the video on screen now to watch the video on that. Thanks for watching.